So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the demo. So jump out of this and jump into the website. Now this is a pre-populated instance for the Brooke Army Medical Center. This is the landing page. You got the Privacy Act notice at the bottom. You got a quick report on your current duty status that shows up on the front page. It is tied to your account when you log in, so you're going to see the information that's associated with your individual account. For personnel duty status tracking, I can simply click on this button, submit my present for duty status report, and now I've basically checked in. It's very useful for units that don't have the morning formation. It is role-based. You can see I've got the company training role right now. I can jump down to the individual role where I only have a few reports available for the individual. I can see my duty status that it was just implemented or inputted, or input a new report, for instance, and indicate, hey, I'm going to be taking leave on certain dates, or I have an appointment. I can report all that stuff in as well. Notice for present for duty, I can only do that for today's date, but for leave I can put in my future dates. And it's validation there as well. And that one, of course, is pending. I'm going to go ahead and jump to the admin role, because that shows the full functionality. Under the admin role, this is typically managed by your S1, but at the top level, I've got everything I can do to configure the BPMT, so I can control who has access to which reports and forms through the web page access by role. Just pick the role, identify if they can update, delete, if they have access to files. I can monitor user requests here, do user administration and grant roles to people. Review change logs within the database, as well as deletion logs. Under database section is where you can manage your units. So these are all the units that I've imported for the Brooke Army Medical Center, down to the company level. We've got wizards for importing personnel and positions. After they're imported, you can then go in and manage them if you need to make any changes. So for instance, here the troop commander is a command position, so I want to designate it as such. It helps out for identifying appropriate signature blocks and routing for awards. So just by doing that, whoever is assigned to that position, their signature block will be included for an award for a person assigned within this troop command. Under Manage Component Options, you can see the various components you can use. If you're not going to use or allow contractors to be tracked in the system, you can just uncheck that box and they won't come up as an option in the drop-down. So you won't actually be able to manually add them. You can actually import them, but they're not going to show up in the filters. There's several variables as well that will apply across the BPMT. So how long is an APFT valid for? Basically a year, and this is in days, and 165 days before your test is due. That's just to apply a little bit of a buffer. Personal action administration, so you can actually identify the personal actions you want to make available to people in the unit. And just by identifying the names of the references, this will generate a link, which you'll notice will appear down here in the bottom left, directly to that publication in Army Publishing Directorate. Same thing applies to the forms. If there's additional forms required beyond the 4187 or memorandum, they'll have links to those forms available in the personal action request. And then of course you can see the rank options, adjust. Everything can pretty much be managed for the most part directly through the website. So if there's changes in the regulations that affect the timelines for promotion, that can be edited here. And then I've got the other services in here as well. So you can see the Air Force ranks if you have Air Force personnel in your unit. Same thing goes for award options. You've got all the awards in here, the suspenses to get them submitted, who the approval authority is. evaluation options. These change on occasion as well, so you can deprecate existing ones. And there's a separate list for all of the offices associated. So this is kind of a parallel tracking structure, so there it does support tracking by command, brigade, battalion, company, or by offices, and then it'll track by directorate, division, and branch. In this case, everybody assigned in one of these branches will be visible by the deputy commanding officer's directorate role. Under training options, you can see the various mandatory and optional training, the method of delivery, and the frequency at which those are required, whether or not the training's for military or civilian. This basically will populate the reports under the training tab. Workflow management basically facilitates status tracking for your actions, and that can all be set here for the awards, evaluations, flags, etc. This column basically indicates which level of role has access to that status, and when that status is set, this person in the notify role, whoever's got that role and is within that same unit, gets notified that that status change has been made. And over here you can see under the category indicates whether that particular status is considered as pending or completed. The time to live is just used to keep it on a report for 7 days after it's been completed, just so you give time for everyone to see that status was applied. That only applies to certain reports. You can also make little announcements that will appear on the home page, and there's files which you can view for various people. There is some basic recycling capabilities. If files get deleted or if records get deleted, a recycle bin exists on each page, so those can be restored if it was an accident. And you can also view here the types of files that you can tag a particular file with when you upload it. So the BPMT allows you to associate an uploaded file with say an APFT record or an award, and you can identify what type it actually is. And there's even version history associated with that if you want it. So for instance, the DA638, you might want to track the various versions of that. Essentially, when you upload an award multiple times, it'll save each version as long as this box is checked here. And that applies site-wide. And then you can also see the various file types that are allowed to be uploaded into the website. So let's get into the real functionality. For personnel, probably the most commonly used one is just a simple alpha roster. Now this allows you to quickly filter down. I'm going to jump real quick to the brigade personnel role, and you'll see when the report loads based on the role, it's going to automatically have it started out down to the level that I'm authorized to see. So everybody else above the Brooke Army Medical Center is filtered out. So I'm only able to see my role, which has 2,408 people in it. And from here I can do additional filters. Maybe I just want to see all the military people imported, which in this case is 931, or all the civilians, which is the other 1,477, or I can drill down to very specific, just the regular Army folks, which is pretty much all the military, so the 931 there. If I want to drill down even further, maybe I'm looking for a specific MOS, just the 42 Foxes. I can see that I've got one. And I can further filter down by gender, marital status, and view the details of that individual. Now if I've been granted rights to edit, then this will become a clickable link, and I can also click into here to upload files. Say I want the ORB associated with that individual, I can upload that here. Under inbounds, I can see any gains, and for the Brooke Army Medical Center, at least, there's not any. Let's see if there's any at the higher level. Nope. Okay, so no inbounds at this point. I've got a quick birthday report, so it'll just show me who's got a birthday this month. And I can export that, so if I want to do a birth month audit or something like that, I'll have a quick checklist. Or if I'm just concerned about military in that case, I can filter that down and export that to Excel. The S2 could use the security clearances to track basic information about an investigation. And the individual summary basically allows you to see the records that are associated with an individual. So you see their information here, and the individuals themselves would have access to this report as well, but they would not be able to edit this information. They can see their contacts, but if I want to add personal contact information, I could go in here, punch in my own phone numbers as an individual, or I could do that as the platoon leader of that individual as well. And there's other forms as well to add addresses, view my rating chain, that's going to be available to me here, and then any pending actions. Under my actions is where I can actually edit any open actions for an individual, and there's really nothing to show here since I haven't. This is a newly populated database. If I want to track PERSTATs, I can view those here. I can view the status of people, or quickly update them if I'm doing a mass roll-up. So as you saw when I first logged in, I reported myself present for duty. But if I am in the company and I wanted to quickly identify people that are present for duty that have just reported in to me, I'm going to do the report on their behalf. I just have to hit no report here, identify which ones are actually present, and do a mass update PDY status. So now I can view the present for duty. If I hover over the actual status, I can see who entered that record and when. So I got some details as to when that report was entered. And then after that report is done for the rest of the organization, I can get a quick roll-up. Now the roll-up allows me to filter this down to an individual unit. But since I'm at the brigade level, maybe I want to see it broken down to the company levels and see the overall reported numbers. I can see how many have reported, how many are present. You can see the ones I just created there. And I can also roll this up and view it at the brigade level and get a brigade level roll-up. If I want to further break it down and see civilians, regular army, I can get that breakdown. Or if I just want to be more generic, I can do the military personnel code, get civilians, enlisted, NCOs, officers, and warrants. And you can see how that's broken down: 4 civilians and 3 officers. And then of course I can export that to Excel as well. If I want to project out based on expected leave dates, I could even do that. Jump to the next month, and if there's any leave dates submitted that cross that date, then I would see that leave that I entered for testing. You can see it shows up right there, August 3rd. Down to strength management, I can monitor positions, who's actually assigned to the positions, and even highlight them to see if they've been there less than 12 months, over 12 months, or over 18. View my vacancies. I can filter this down to just show my vacancies. Or just show the currently filled positions. And this is one of those nice reports. You can even see, tells me how many months they've been on the job, just to give me an idea, and I can add comments to those individually. If I need more space, I can always collapse this menu on the left as well. One really nice feature that sergeant majors tend to love is the strength summary. I click on that, and I'm going to get that full view by hiding that. So I'm at the brigade level. In this case, I'm just interested in my regular Army strengths. So I'm going to filter down to the regular Army, and you can see my required, authorized, and assigned numbers by MOS. So 1,571 authorized, 931 assigned. And these columns will highlight in red, just this particular column and the last column, to show that you're less than 80%. When you hover over, you can see the actual percentages. Now, if I wanted to drill down and view the actual breakout for a specific MOS, I could just click on that MOS and see the breakout by grade and NPC if it spans more than one. If you look at evaluations, I can track OERs, I can track NCOERs. First thing it's going to do is tell me, hey, these people do not have an evaluation in the system. You should create one. And so I'm just going to put in the start date. I'll say February 1st. It's going to automatically do a year out. If the rating chain indicates that the narrator is leaving earlier, then that will impact the actual rating timeline. And I don't have any generals in here, so I'm just going to do two other colonels for now. But it's only going to show me people that are eligible, at least at the same rank or higher, to fill out that. Now that I've actually created one, you look at OER management and see that record entered. And just like with awards, I can populate this. In this case, since everything is done through the enterprise system, enterprise evaluation entry system, just the link is provided here since there is no form generation. But however, if you did spit out a PDF version of your draft document, you could always upload that, just as we did with the awards. I can also do a rating scheme and quickly manage that here. So if I wanted to update the rating scheme for the entire unit, say for instance, wanted to make the company commander the senior rater for everybody in this company, which obviously doesn't make sense in this case, but let me just drill down and look at just the regular Army. And we'll do, how about for all NCOs? That's a good candidate right there. And we're going to find that individual. Now in this case, I'm just going to make myself the senior rater. And I can quickly update the rating chain for these NCOs. Oh, I'm sorry. I do need to specify which ones are actually getting updated. Okay, so that's a quick way to populate it. And the effective day is today since there's no positions associated. And then I can export this rating chain as it's currently filtered. Maybe I want to show all personnel. And then when it's fully populated, I can also generate a rating scheme memorandum, which should only show, actually it's not going to show anybody right now until I have a rater in there. So for a bunch of these kernels, we'll put in a rater here. There we go. I'll make Elliot the rater for these three. we'll generate a rating scheme memorandum now, just so you can see the memorandum generation capabilities. And so it's going to populate their information there. It's going to be sorted kernels down to sergeant. Since I generated, I'm going to be the POC. And again, we just need to assign the commander for that signature block to fully populate. If I want to track leaves, I can enter a leave request for a soldier. If I've gone on leave before, previous addresses will show here to quickly populate, so you don't have to retype it. So once that information is input, that's a nice big one. 1, 2, 3. I can identify who my supervisor is and process it. This is going to jump me over here, and this will of course allow me to autofill the DA31, upload it, and then forward it to my supervisor for signature directly through this report. This of course will show all the reports and has the same filters, and this particular report will show by month which leaves are occurring during that month. I can do contact entry information if I want to put in information about my spouse or kids. Do a contact report just so I can quickly see all the phone numbers, dependent information for a particular unit. Do an alert roster. So you saw how I could enter contact information for myself. Well, if everybody does that, then I can have a quick way to generate the alert roster right from here. Enter addresses, flag an individual, and that will also allow you to populate within the flag report the DA268 start a personnel action. So this is a fun one. So it's a request for retirement. There we go. So once that's processed, you can see some of the other support that this provides, in addition to form filling the DA4187. Having those capabilities, I can also generate the request memorandum that is pre-populated with variables. With the routing that is built into the tool. It's got my information. You scroll down. There's other things that I'll have to manually edit, but it creates my signature block at the end. It's nicely formatted. I also have links to the regulations and to additional forms that I might need to attach. And then I can even generate a personal action endorsement memo if I have these people designated, and then upload it, and of course start that action with the company. There's promotion administration, QNSR reports, so you can track, automatically generate based on the data in the database your QNSR reports for population and for awards. And then the command and staff rolls it all together so you can do your weekly reports directly from this presentation. So this displays basically your valuations, followed by losses and awards, followed by your gains at the bottom. And that can be filtered by unit, or in this case by directorate, division, and branch as well. If I just want to look at the commander's directorate and the command sergeant major branch, well, there's only one person. That's a loss for that particular branch. For physical, I can track APFT status, get my total number of tests. If I'm the company training NCO, for instance, I can go in here, schedule an APFT, for select individuals on a future date. Jump to the test input form. Here's my test date. And then after the test is taken, of course, I can put in the information, how many raw push-ups they did, sit-ups, and their runtime. I can indicate if they're on profile or had to do an alternate event, and automatically calculate their score for you. And of course, in my status report, let's actually jump back to this test input form and make this a previous date. Now you can see I have a valid test. And then it's going to give me my averages for the unit. In this case, I'm going to group it by company. But if I have platoons and sections, I'd get those breakouts as well. Or I can look at the by name roll up as well. If I wanted to see the extended scale, I could just check that box. Of course, this person did not get over 100 points on sit-ups, so it will not affect them. But had they done that, you'd see the extended score as well. And track failures, weigh-ins, etc. For training, you can update training records really quickly. So if I want to look at a specific individual, see how they are, I could do that. Or if I want to quickly update training, I'll do some cyber awareness training, which everyone's supposed to do once a year. I'm going to mark everybody that needs it, and we'll assume a couple of these people did not actually complete it. So we just recorded now training for all those individuals. And now if I jump to the training report by name, I'll see when those were actually completed for those various training events. And for my training roll-up, since I'm at the company level, I can view section, platoon, or company roll-ups and get my percentages for the company. I'm interested in viewing this by component. You can see the breakdown by GP, GS, WG civilians, and regular Army. And one future capability is that we'll be able to export this. We can export this to Excel and hopefully import it right into DTMS to speed up tracking. Just to see what an individual record looks like. I'll get that highlight, and all of these are actually links to the places where online classes are held. So the individual, in this case, would need access to that report granted to them, but you can see a similar case here. I can look at my personal PT history and weigh-in history, or look at my own individual summary to see the actions that apply to me. Here's my retirement action and leave request. And then for awards where I am the recommender, I will see those in this one and what those statuses are as well. So quite a lot of capabilities, a lot of automation built in here, and a really valuable tool to all levels of a command, all the way down to the individual. So I hope you appreciated the detailed review. It took a little more in-depth look than I originally anticipated, but this should give you a good idea of the overall capabilities of the Brigade Personnel Management tool. Thank you.